Hello and welcome to another episode of God-Sized Stories. I'm blessed I have two guests this week. I have the Hongistos with me. Please tell us about yourself.
Well, my name is Diane Hongisto. I have two grown sons and live here in this house with my husband Nick. We've been married for 38 years. Yeah. And as of right now, I am not currently working, but I had the care team at church, and that does keep me pretty busy. But I used to be a school teacher a long time ago, and then tutored for many years as well.
Well, and you homeschooled.
I did homeschool.
Yeah, that is more than a full-time job.
I did, yes.
When our youngest was when Andy was in first grade, we took him out. He never went back to public school. And Peter, who was 2 years younger, never went to public school. Always homeschool.
Yeah.
That's always a thing for me, because I've known many people homeschooled throughout the years, and it's like parents either do it really well or really bad, and you can usually tell pretty quickly which they are, because you talk to the kid and, well, I guess I should say, you try to talk to the kid, and if you can't talk to the kid, then maybe they're not doing such a good job.
Yeah, that was really very much a God thing. Being a school teacher, I thought there was no way I was going to swim upstream and be I didn't even know what homeschooling was, actually. A friend of mine told me about it. And I don't know. It was something that I just started to feel like God was really talking to us about. And then we both, not right away, but we both were on the same page with it after, praying about it and thinking about it a while. So,
my name's Nick. 61, almost 62, which is crazy. I've always worked in the, I guess you'd call it golf maintenance industry, and I'm currently doing that now. Work for a company that sells all that equipment on their irrigation service tech for the Midwest. So I get to travel and visit great golf courses and see God's work on a course and come home. I don't have to stick around and worry about the bad stuff. So
there you go.
Yeah, so that's us. We've been here in St. Charles, or Sycamore, excuse me. Where do we live? 14 years now?
16
years. Wow. Yeah, don't ask me for details.
She's the number person.
Yeah, I just me and Andy, and well, that's the downside to the boys, where none of us are good at math.
We all have our own gifts.
Yeah.
Well, it's just been a blessing to know you guys for many years now. You referenced Andy a minute ago, and maybe some of the listeners might recognize Andy. He's been on a few episodes in the past, but I've known you guys through him for... Andy and I were just talking about this the other day. We've been friends for like a decade now, which is weird. Yeah, that it's like, that's a long time. And getting to know you guys through him over the years by coming over to your home and you showing love to me and all of our other friends has been such a blessing. And you guys have been, as I already referenced once, like parents that have homeschooled, but not just that, but like parents that have raised children and that you put all your all in. And I've had the joy to see that and myself enjoyed the fruit of your labor by being friends with your son. Has been a true blessing to me. So thank you. And it's like, I'm always afraid when I look forward to the future of having my own kids, because it's like, ooh, but it's like, it can be done well.
Well, I think I give the credit to Diane, because we've always, I don't know if it just worked out that way, but we were always the family that everybody hung out at. The kids would come over and there's the fridge. And, don't break anything and have fun. Yeah. So we've always been the hangout house.
It's always been a very welcoming place to be.
Even when they were little.
Well, that's a very nice thing for you to say. Yeah. Thank you. That blesses us to hear you say that.
Yeah.
And like we had mentioned to you before, we feel blessed that you're such good friends with Andy.
Oh, yes. For sure.
Good friends.
And Pete.
Yeah.
Our second son,
Yeah.
Well, I'm so blessed to be able to have you guys on. That's been one of the joys overall for this ministry with the podcast, is having conversations with the people I've known for years and just get to talk about the great things in their life that God has done. And we've been sitting here for a while before this, even just talking about this idea of why is God so great? Like, where can we see in our lives of God so great? And we keep coming around this idea of we can just see the evidence of his love. And you guys were talking about so many different times in your life where you've seen tangible evidence of his love in your life. And that's, I love it so great. And I guess we'll start, like, because Dick, you were talking as well. You already brought this up, so we can circle back to it, is with seeing God's glory in nature with plants.
Oh, yeah, nature. And I didn't mention, too, I love nature. I know Diane loves the lake, and we always tease Diane that she has to go step on the Great Lake once a year just to recharge her battery. It's just so important to her life. And we know when you just look out of the lake and you just see the water forever, you just can't wrap your head around it as to how God made that. And for me also, I do a lot, my job now, I do a lot of driving. I'm in the truck a lot, so I'm listening to Christian music, and you'll hear some song you haven't heard in years, and it just strikes you that, wow, that person was touched by God who made this song 20 years ago, and now it's hitting me, probably in a different way, but it certainly is from the hand of God and his love for us. And, I used to play trumpet when I was a kid, but I understand that it's not easy to make music. It just, and art, just befuddles me, like Andy.
And that's the thing, like, both of your sons are both very creatively, artistically.
Yeah. And our daughter-in-law, oh my gosh, what Chelsea does is crazy.
Oh, yeah.
And I just make a balloon man. That's my guy. That's as far as I go. I can paint a wall well, but that's about it.
Hey, that's an important skill. And I know, like, flowers are a big passion for you. Like, all you have to do is step into your home and know that plants are important to you and your beautiful decorations.
God's attention to detail, the way he designs things is just amazing to me. And every plant is so different. There's more species than probably anybody could ever even catalog.
Right.
Just in this room, there are so many different plants. And when I used to work for a short time at a plant store, and it actually closed at the beginning of 2020. And I used to say to people when they were buying a plant, have you ever looked underneath the leaf of this plant? And sometimes they got it. Sometimes they were like, wow, that's really cool. And other times they were like, just give me my plant, lady. But there's even just the underside of a leaf has a pattern to it. Most people never even take the time to look at it, but God put it there. And it's just astounding to me.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, now it's our wonderful winter season coming, which we all love or hate. But just this morning I was looking out the window with my cup of coffee, and I saw a couple of flakes, and it struck me that, God makes every one of those unique. That's another time where, it's a God thing. I can't wrap my head around that. I believe it, but I don't understand it. What? How did he do that? So it's just, if you look around, he's everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
In everything.
Yeah.
And everybody.
And what I love too with plants and, reflecting on scripture, the amount of times that God relates humans to being like plants. So, grafting into the vine, the parable of the soils, all those wonderful things. And it's always comforting to me to know that, well, maybe not always comforting. It is sometimes a comfort to me to know that it's not us that do the growing, it's him.
Yes.
Right.
Exactly. It's not in our control. It is definitely all his doing. Yeah, like we were talking about before, you can stick a seed in the ground, and whether or not it grows is really, you can water and hope it's going to be sunny enough, but God does all that. It's all in this tiny little package, and it grows into this beautiful, intricate flower or plant. Yeah, it's amazing.
We see that every spring where we live, and we're surrounded by cornfields and bean fields.
Yeah, right.
Because the farmers have invested millions of dollars into seed and equipment and acreage, but once that seed's in the ground, you're just waiting, and that's when God takes over. Yep.
And the amount of times that scripture, like, oh, here was a famine, so nothing grew. And it's like, you could do the best ever, but if all of a sudden it doesn't rain, you're in trouble.
Right. Yeah. Yep.
That faith.
Mm-hmm. And it's such a blessing that, like, we've had this conversation before too, of like how that can be even reflected on, as we were discussing before, being parents. Like, that's what I said, like, before, is like, I respect you guys so much as parents and seeing what you've done because you put your heart into it. But you would ultimately agree that God was the one that got your boys to where they are.
Well,
100%.
Sure,
yes. And I feel like they are who they are because of God. We are their parents, but they are who they are because of God. God has, had his hand on them, as he does all of us. And I'm blown away by their wisdom, and it's not coming from me.
Oh, no.
It's really not.
No, and not for me, that's for sure. Like,
So,
how did you, wow.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
both of them. Yep.
And with that, we had a really good conversation about what I referenced before, the parable of the sowers, and how, like, it's hard for anyone in the situation of, like, so often where those seeds that land in the soil, where eventually the weeds take over, because those weeds just, and parents, or not even parents, just people caring about friends and ministry leaders caring about the people in their ministries, the amount of time they spend weeding that garden. Any true gardener will tell you can weed all day and they'll still keep coming.
Yeah.
Yep.
They grow easier than any other plants.
Right.
And that, there's probably a lot of parallels to life, that you can try and keep your child safe from every single thing you can think of, but there are going to be things you don't think of, and that's that slow releasing them into the world and trusting that God will protect them.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember when kids would get sent on missionary trips. The church that we used to go to, where Andy and Peter grew up, there was a program of high schoolers every summer spending a month in all these different countries. And so, they would always be sent, and by the whole congregation kind of, gathering around and laying hands and praying. And they would always say the safest place they can be is in the center of God's will. Even if it's, a place that seemed less than safe to us good old suburban Americans who are thinking about, sending someone to Hyderabad, India, and feeling, how scary that might be. But it's just that trusting that if they're where God wants them to be, then they'll be safe. That was one of the hardest things for me as a parent, is to try and understand that. I think I still struggle with that.
Oh, of course, because there's always that protector in us. Because I remember, this was years ago now. Go back to the college thing again. I remember going with Andy to Chicago to do some stuff, and I even remember him it was like I was a country bumpkin. I'm still a country bumpkin. He's a country / suburban kid, and then we're going. We're like South Side Chicago, just like hanging outside the train stop, just trying to talk to people.
Yeah,
we're both kind of like, well, I guess we're gonna do this.
Yes, I do remember hearing about the extra.
Oh man!
Well, you did it.
Yeah, and it was great, and we had a wonderful time, and Andy and I became better brothers in Christ through that, and that's the point.
Forging iron against each other. Making it stronger.
And that's what I love about God, is like he's the one that provides things. He's the one that protects us, and that's some of the other stuff that we were talking about. The three of us, is God provides even in times when we don't see possible avenues for provision. That's kind of my thing. Sadly, too often, as I ignore His provision when it's right in my face. And you guys were telling some really beautiful stories about a couple times where in your lives, very practical ways.
Yeah, where our washing machine broke, and we really didn't have the money for a washing machine, and didn't know how we were, going to wash our clothes.
Put under the kitchen, beat them on a rock.
There you go.
And our neighbor, he does repair appliances, so we reached out to him to seeing if he had anything secondhand, and his mom had just bought a new washer, and so he sold us her washer, I think, for like $25, and we still have it.
That was a while ago.
It was a while ago, and it's still going.
Some parts have been rebuilt, which is gotta learn to be handy.
Exactly.
Yeah. And it's. I mean, I know a washing machine is not a bleak situation, but sometimes it feels that way because it just feels like the plates are, the spinning plates are falling off, and you don't know how you're going to fix it.
Right.
And God does provide. He's so gentle with the way he does it. He doesn't say you're an idiot. I told you I would. He doesn't do that.
Never.
He's so gentle and kind and just keeps pointing us back to him. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So there's been quite a few situations.
When we moved out here to Sycamore, the boys are old enough to go to Kish Junior College, but Kish is probably 10 miles, 15 miles away, and we didn't have a car. We had a car, we didn't at the time, and we didn't know how we were going to get one to get the boys to school. And Diane's sister's husband's mother was in a retirement home and didn't need the car anymore. So out of the blue, during that moment or that time, Steve let us know, hey, would you guys be interested in
She wanted to give them the car.
She wanted to give it to the boys.
Yeah.
Totally not knowing that we were in need of it. So that's how Bro showed up. That's what the boys, Peter always nicknames stuff. So that's
yes, we nickname our.
And he made it through the boy all their trips to Kish until almost to the very end, and he finally bit the bullet. But
I think he made it.
Well, no, because then our neighbors 2 doors down, the Wolves.
That came first.
The truck came first?
Yeah.
Oh, well, that was a gift too.
Details.
Yeah,
I know. I'm not
that truck had about 10 miles left in it when they gave it to us. It wasn't great. And they did get maybe...
I'm still surprised we let... That's faith for Peter, because he drove that to school.
Yeah.
And I
that wasn't great. I have to be honest.
Finally, he just died in the corner, and Dave, who gave us the washer, towed it back over. Anyway, long story.
Yeah.
That was a total gift, too, from some good neighbors. Good Christian friends,
Yeah.
Well, the last thing I want to reflect on is kind of a thing you were just talking about a minute ago there, Diane, about how, like, when we're in those moments when maybe our faith isn't the most apparent thing, especially towards God, and that comfort he has towards us and that forgiveness he has towards us. And this was an idea we were talking about before, and I'll relate it to the whole parenthood thing we were talking about before, too, of, like, the comfort that it can be, the idea that it's not over. Like, it's not over till it's over. The classic saying is like, because I've known many parents, and I was sharing a story earlier of a friend of mine, like when I became a believer, one of the families that the Lord used to bring me, they had 3 kids, and 2 of them, one is a worship pastor, the daughter is a missionary in Africa, and the third one became a drug addict lead singer of a band. And they did everything they could for all of them, and their heart breaks for their third son because they love him just as much as the others. Mm-hmm. But kind of the thing you said too is like, it's not over. Like, he has patience for us. He has love for us, and that's the thing I see reflected in you guys. As you said, all the people that you just, this was the hot spot, having people on it, because that is apparent through all you guys do. Like, that love of, like, helping in those situations, because you don't know where people are.
Yeah, I always had a heart for that. I really wanted to, anyone who came here, especially younger people, friends of Andy and Peter's, to feel welcome, to feel safe, to feel loved, and that was always really important to me. So I'm so happy to hear that you felt that, and I think that was a gift from God, though, that He allowed us to be able to do that. And I was kind of walking through the house just the other day, because to be honest with you, the pandemic's been hard.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it's been hard on a lot of people, but
Sure.
I mean, I think I've been particularly anxious and feeling guilty because you're not supposed to feel anxious as Christians.
Right.
So
right.
that
Oh
whole
my God.
back and forth.
Yes.
But I was just walking through the house, like praying in each room and asking God to allow us to use the house again for people to come over, to feel, to use us and to use the house in whatever way He sees fit, because I want it to feel, full of life again and full of just a place together.
Because I think we've always looked at a house as a home, not just for us, but for friends, and family, and whoever. Because we've always enjoyed that. When kids were younger, there were sleepovers every weekend when they were small.
Pretty much, it seems.
Every week. I remember going to work in the morning and stepping over kids sleeping in the family room. Just sneak out. Yeah.
We had a neighbor who did not have a good home life, and he pretty much asked to sleep over.
Well,
we
were like maybe
and so
sanctuary, I wouldn't say.
Yeah, so we kind of, and he was fine with his parents, so it worked out.
Well, and that's what we're called to do. That is being the church. That is being Christ to the world. Like we should be reaching our neighbors and our kids and their kids' friends and their parents and doing whatever we can for them. And that's been the most convicting thing of me in this season too. Is like, how can I be doing that better? Because like sometimes I get caught, as so many of us do, where it's like, well, I'm in church and that's kind of the church's job is to do outreach. And well, it's part of the church's job, but it's equally my job. Like the church isn't it's not on my street. So
right.
They're not going to be doing the thing for the guy across the street. That's my job.
Right.
Like,
yes. That is such a good perspective to think that way. I know, and I think I always feel like I should be doing more. And particularly lately. But sometimes just going for walks through the neighborhood and praying for each house as you walk. Sometimes I've just done that standing on my porch and just sort of, mentally pointing. Because, if I'm really pointing, they might be like, what are you pointing at?
Watching.
Yeah, you don't want to be that neighbor.
Those ring doorbells are.
Oh, yeah.
But I've done that many times, and I don't know. I feel like it's such a simple thing, but it just feels
But sometimes,
like something.
Sometimes the simplest things are the best. Yeah. Because they are so simple. Like, and we can tie that into the gospel. Like, the gospel is so simple. Like, that's why it's the best, because it's so simple. Anyone can understand it because it's so simple.
Yeah.
It's true.
Well, I want to thank you guys so much for endless amounts of things, because I've been a recipient of so many of those things. Like we were just talking, like we're in your home now. I've been in this home many times, and now that I live a little bit of a travel away, there's been times where I've crashed here myself because it's too late and I'm not driving all the way back.
Yeah.
And so I've been just, and as you said, it's like, the fridge is open. Oh, cool. Yeah, I don't know what you got in here. I've been such a recipient of that love so many times that it brings me joy, and I know this is a house that when I walk into it, boom, smile on my face, because I know this is, as you said, a home, not just for you guys, this is a home for your community and for the people in your circles and stuff like that, because that's what Christ would do. So thank you so much for that. I've always felt more than welcomed here through the countless things we've done.
Today when you walked in, you got mauled by a puppy.
That is true, too. I've been mauled by many animals in this home.
That's true. That is another thing.
So thank you for all of that. And then thank you for sparing a nice afternoon to sit and have this conversation with me, just doing something I love so much, and that's talking about God and His power in our lives. And audience, thank you so much for listening. I couldn't do this without you. Goodbye.